Ahoy, everyone! This is the Autistic Scyther here, and when it comes down to it, the previous video took a look at all the ninjas in video games. But this time, we're taking a look at the saltiest scalawags ever to roam the seven seas. Pirates! That's right! Considering how many video games have had a pirate at least once in their lifetime, it makes sense to take a look at all of them. So, it's time to count down the top 10 pirates in video games. First things first. Let me get out of this accent. Jeez, this has gotta be murder on my voice if I keep doing that. Anyway, the rules are 1 per franchise, and they have to be considered a pirate, no matter what type of pirate they are. Sea, air, ghost, what you name it, they have to be seen as a pirate. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off first at number 10, we have King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong franchise. Yeah. Honestly, when it comes down to it, at first glance, K. Rool doesn't seem like a pirate. I mean, he just seems like a king with pink eye. However, surprisingly enough, for those who have played Donkey Kong Country, it's quite obvious the guy is a notorious pirate. Granted, I didn't know he was essentially a part of the crew of a pirate crumling known as Cackle. Granted, keep in mind that I just started playing Donkey Kong Country, so the first Donkey Kong Country, so there's that. But even with that, at the start of the first Donkey Kong Country game, he and his crew of Kremlings essentially end up making it to Kong Island in order to steal the Donkey Kong's banana hoard, leading Donkey Kong and Diddy Kong to basically go on a mission to get back all of their bananas. And basically eventually facing off against K. Rool on the deck of his ship. And this is an interesting one to say the least. That being said, even after defeat, you really can't keep a good pirate down, as he comes back in the sequel as Captain K. Rool, where he kidnaps Donkey Kong, leading Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong to try and search for to go on a rescue mission to rescue DK. And even with that, he tends to essentially cut out the pirating in later games, eventually getting replaced altogether with the Tiki Tongs and the Snowmans in the 2 Donkey Kong titles for the Wii and the Wii U, Donkey Kong Country Returns and Tropical Freeze. That being said, he does eventually make a return in Donkey Kong Bonanza, whereas it turns out he basically got stuck at the planet's core searching for the Bonandium root. And after Pauline ends up singing to bring Donkey Kong back to life from being trapped in stone, he basically just hijacks the plot from Void Kong. Which, honestly, the fact that the guy came back really does say a lot. Honestly, I hope we get to see more from this guy later on. We really miss him. That's all I gotta say. Moving on next at number 9, we have Gangplank from League of Legends. Speaking of pirate kings, there's no greater pirate king than the saltwater scourge himself, Gangplank. And naturally, that really does say a lot. And considering League of Legends, they're known to have several different lands, many of them different. One of them being the the portside town of Bilgewater, which, of course, has been ruled with an iron fist by Gangplank. And naturally, he kind of fits that due to being completely ruthless. I mean, he basically killed Miss Fortune's parents and left her for dead, leading her to try and get revenge on him, only for her to topple his empire and depose the guy soon afterwards. But like K. Rool, you obviously can't keep a good pirate down, and he came back stronger than ever, and with a more almost supernatural bent. And even with that, you get to see how strong he is from his abilities, as you got some solid abilities, as his main ability sets his opponent on fire, and it sets his enemy on fire, and giving him a boost of movement speed. Which that's his passive. His main ability, he has an ability called Parley, which basically gives him gold if he kills an enemy by shooting them with his flintlock pistol. Remove Scurvy has him heal himself by eating oranges, and of course, he has another ability where he plants a barrel, an explosive barrel, at a target location, and is able to blow it up whenever he hits it with an attack or parley. And his ultimate has him rain down cannon fire on his opponents, just either slowing them down, boosting his allies' movement speeds, or just dealing massive damage. Honestly, yeah, it's kind of the fact that Gangplank is seen as the scourge of the Seven Seas. He could keep it. I'm not challenging him anytime soon. Moving on next at number 8, we have Tetra from the Legend of Zelda franchise. Speaking of pirates, honestly, when it comes down to the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, you kinda knew pirates would essentially show up sooner or later, since by the time of the game, the entirety of Hyrule is underwater, and everyone's made a new life for themselves on land, surrounded by the sea. Which really does say a lot. This leads into this version of Link's journey, starting when he spots Tetra in the clutches of the Helmarock King, who basically is stealing girls that basically have the trademark pointy ears of the Hylian royal family. Of course, after getting hit by a cannonball, that big old bird ends up dropping Tetra into the forest on top of the mountain, and Link has to essentially head up to the forest to essentially try and see what's going on. Of course, once he basically ends up helping her out, that's when the Helmarock King decides to make a return visit and kidnaps Link's little sister, Arl, leading him to basically take a trip to the Forsaken Fortress leading Tetra to help him out by taking him to the Forsaken Fortress in order to, mount a rescue of Arl by catapulting him into the Forsaken Forest in a barrel. Granted, they do end up losing in contact with him, but she basically shows up. And considering her and her crew are more or less focused on finding treasure, really does say a lot. That being said, we eventually find out that Tetra is actually Zelda in disguise, and it kind of makes sense. Granted, she doesn't play that much of a role until the final battle, but yeah, she does essentially play a nice little role. And heck, even in Phantom Hourglass, where she ends up getting turned to stone by Bellum, but she does play a nice little. But we do get to see how much of a powerful pirate she is in Hyrule Warriors. Again, have not played Hyrule Warriors, but honestly, now that I say it, I really want to. Because, honestly, this is just a no-brainer. That's all I gotta say. Alright. Moving on next, at number 7, we have Risky Boots from the Shantae series. Yeah. Moving on next, we go from Tetra to the notorious lady pirate Risky Boots, who basically is one of the few pirates who literally tends to become a recurring thorn in their hero's side, naturally crossing blades with everyone's favorite half-genie hero, Shantae. And in the first one, in the first game, she launches an attack on Scuttletown in order to steal Uncle Mimic's steam machine. And more often than not, while she does get stopped, she basically ends up trying her best to get all the gems before Shantae, and basically in order to take over. And like I said, she becomes a recurring thorn in Shantae's side. However, she has had some efforts of essentially teaming up with Shantae as an unwilling ally, as seen in Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, where basically Shantae helps out Risky Boots by defeating the Pirate King, who was originally the original crew, the original captain of Risky Boots' ship. And naturally, really does say a lot. Granted, the only Shantae game I've played was the first game for the Game Boy, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, I really gotta find more Shantae titles. Really do. Alright. Moving on next to number 6, we have Brigid from Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. Yeah. Honestly, when it comes down to it, pirates really... Sometimes females aren't always the best pirates. And naturally, this makes sense with Brigid, who, when in Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War, basically shows up as the leader of the Orga Hill Pirates. Granted, when she shows up, all you gotta do is recruit her with Sigurd, and she becomes a solid member of the group, since she joins as a sniper. Eventually, you discover that she's basically the missing princess of Ungvi and Princess Edane's sister, and as well as the heir to the legendary bow, the Yufel, as well as the progenitor of the holy blood of Ul, which honestly makes her a solid bow unit, and better than the likes of Jamka though, and she becomes a solid member of any group. Granted, she does make a return in Thracia 776's Avil, where she becomes the leader of the Fianna Freeblades and the adopted mother of Merida. But yeah, she does is kind of leave the entire thing after getting turned to stone. So, yeah. But either way, granted, she becomes pretty much a solid unit no matter what. Granted, I give or take. Just give or take. This will be continued in part 2.